Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Rendon.
I'm Andre Sr. Now to that breaking news. Justice Ginsburg, just 87 years old. The cause of death was pancreatic cancer. In the last year, she had received treatment for both lung cancer and the tumor on her pancreas. She was just the second woman on the high court after her nomination by President Bill Clinton. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was known as a champion of women's rights and the leader of the court's liberal wing. We're joined now by UC Hastings law professor David Levine with more on this huge loss for the court. First, David, can you just give me your thoughts on the sudden passing?
Sure, Andre. Well, of course, it's a big shock, although everybody knew that she fought cancer several times. And with this most recent bout, if you read between the lines, she was getting palliative care. But of course, it's a big shock. I noticed that she sent out a message via her granddaughter asking that she not be replaced until after the election. I'm sure we'll get into that, but she was thinking about that even at the very end.
Yeah, that is something that people are definitely going to be talking about. But as we look back at her, because she was a big influence on the court, on America, what are some of the top issues that caused her to be such a standout star, if you will, on the high court?
Sure. Well, even as a litigator, she is the pathbreaker in terms of bringing equality to women in the Supreme Court. She had a long series of pathbreaking lawsuits that she argued as a lawyer, and then she continued that on the Supreme Court. A zealous defender of civil rights, but especially women's rights, a very clear writer, very good about creating coalitions on the court, a very well-liked person. You might recall that she and Justice Scalia were tremendous friends, tremendous personal friends. The Scalias and the Ginsburgs spent many social time together, so she was somebody who could work across the board in the Supreme Court. So it's just a big figure, and this loss just can't be underestimated.
Yeah, the Justice
can't
Scalia.
be overestimated, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Justice Scalia, of course. On the opposite side, he was a staunch conservative, if you will, on the court, and she was a liberal. But
right,
what do you
but
think?
They were great friends.
Yeah,
just
and they were still great friends. That really speaks to how she can work across the aisle, if you will, in this case, involving the high court. Let's talk about how she'll be remembered. What are some of the big rulings that she was part of that you think that will be attached to her name?
Well, as I said, I mean, anything going toward equality of women, the extension of sex discrimination, even as recently as this spring, the opinion that extended sex discrimination to LGBT and transgender people, she was part of that majority, but her work is what set that up, that made that possible. So all sorts of civil rights issues, the VMI, Virginia Military Institute case, opening up that institution to women. It's just case after case in that direction.
So now she is, of course, we're looking ahead here, and we don't know what's going to happen after this. We know that when President Obama tried to appoint someone to the high court, when he was on his way out, that he was blocked from doing that. We're less than a month away from the election now, or just about a month away from the election now.
Right.
What do you think happens next?
Senator McConnell will explain that she died on a Friday and Justice Scalia died on a Tuesday, and that makes everything different, and they're going to be able to go ahead. That's completely the wrong thing to do so close to the election, but I have no doubt that President Trump will quickly nominate somebody, and Senator McConnell will do his best to get that person pushed through. You might remember that President Trump, I think it was just earlier this week or within the last few days, added a few names to his Supreme Court list as a way to continue to entice his base. So they have a lot of names that are in the hopper, particularly people who were vetted when Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh were selected. So I have no doubt that if they wanted to go ahead, they could come up with a nominee very quickly, and it will be very contentious. It will be very bitter, but Senator McConnell probably has the votes to do that, and he certainly has he'll have the urging from President Trump. So I assume we're in for an enormous fight, but I assume that's what they are going to do. I don't see why Senator McConnell would hold off or why President Trump would hold off. There's just No reason except for consistency to do so.
And what you're talking about with the senator there, he blocked the president from trying to appoint President Obama at the time, from trying to appoint a justice at the time, saying it should wait until after the election, is what you're referencing there. So how does this process go here moving forward? So it comes from the Senate. So we have the nomination process, and they have to go before the Senate?
Sure, the president will nominate, Andre. So the president and presumably White House counsel will work through some of those names on that list. I mean, some I think are, more serious names than others, but I would particularly look to the names who were finalists the last two times because they've been worked up internally. People like Judge Hardiman on the Third Circuit, Judge Coney Barrett on the Seventh Circuit come to mind as the kind of people that might come up, but it might be somebody else on the list. But they'll want to move ahead. I mean, as soon as, let's say, decent. Justice Ginsburg just died today. We have to go through, there'll be a funeral and all the rest. But you can be sure that the White House and Senator McConnell will move as fast as they think they can. And presumably they're going to try and come up with a strong, reliably conservative name. And as I said, they've got a head start because they have that list that President Trump has been developing from 2016.
And how does that tilt the court if President Trump is able to appoint a conservative justice to replace Justice Ginsburg?
It makes an enormous difference because we had a court that was where Chief Justice Roberts was the swing vote, the fifth vote, with Justice Ginsburg kind of leading the liberal four. And now what will happen is let us assume that somebody more conservative than Justice Roberts will be selected, somebody more in the mold of Justice Gorsuch or Justice Kavanaugh, somewhat to the right or largely to the right, maybe not exclusively, to the right of Chief Justice Roberts. So then that person, or perhaps Justice Kavanaugh, will end up being the swing vote. And that'll mean that for 5 votes, it'll be a far more conservative court. There'll be a lot of things, gun control, religion cases, maybe same-sex marriage, all kinds of things where the conservative majority will be able to just put the pedal to the metal with a new appointment.
Yeah, pro-life choices, pro-life decisions as well could come back before the court as
enormous consequences coming up.
So let's talk about Justice Ginsburg for a moment here as we reflect on her life, the passing. It's interesting that you noted that she did not want to be replaced until after the November election, and she put that in writing. I could tell you over the last couple of years when she'd been going through these bouts of cancer, she'd been going through these bouts of cancer since 1999, over 20 years, that people in recent years had been saying that, hey, look, we need her to hold on because we need that balance on the court, that liberal balance on the court. And now it seems as though she put it in writing. Can that carry any weight at all at this point?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You can imagine let's say, crocodile tears that are being shed in the White House today. I can't imagine President Trump being happier than to have heard this terrible, terrible news, because it does give him this opportunity to solidify a conservative majority, to show his base just what he can do for them. The stakes are enormous. I can't imagine the Republican majority actually pausing for this. What it would take would be you'd need about 4 of the Republican senators to be willing to stand up to that juggernaut of President Trump and Senator McConnell. Maybe Senator Romney, maybe Susan Collins from Maine, perhaps. But that's what it would take. You would need 4 Republican senators to say, no, this is wrong. This is not appropriate. We need to wait for a new president. So you'd have to have 4 of them grow backbones pretty quickly to stop what I assume will be the juggernaut that will otherwise be coming forth.
And we're just getting word now that Senator Lisa Murkowski said this afternoon that before Justice Ginsburg's death, she would not vote, or she would vote not to approve a new justice until after Inauguration Day. So we're starting to see this kind of bubble up to the surface here and see what side of the aisle people are on when it comes to this, whether they're Republican or Democrat, and whether it's appropriate to be appointing someone before or after the election on November 3rd coming up.
That's right. There's a very strong case to wait, but it will take 4 votes. So if Senator Murkowski is 1, well, that's 1. 3 more to say we need to wait to hear from the American people. That's the argument. That was the argument Senator McConnell used in failing to give Judge Garland a hearing when he should have gotten a hearing, because Justice Scalia died many months prior to the election than Justice Ginsburg, who just passed away. But that's what it'll take. 4, and if Murkowski's won, 3 more.
Yeah, and we do know that you just mentioned Senator Mitt Romney there. He can, you never know where he's going to vote, because he's sometimes down the middle. Sometimes he is on one side or the other. We just don't know. So it could be an interesting next few weeks in the Senate as we go forward here. Now, I don't want to skip over the important part of Justice Ginsburg here. She was only the second woman in 1993 to hold a place on the High Court. That was a major move by President Clinton at the time, wasn't it?
Well, it was. At the time, she was a Court of Appeals judge. She had already had a distinguished career as a law professor, a distinguished and successful career as a litigator in front of the Supreme Court, having argued many cases. So in many ways, she was a natural pick as the second woman. If you look back to that time, I think maybe 2 other women at the time would have been equally qualified, but she was an obvious natural pick in 93 for the court. And in fact, my belief is that Justice Scalia, he just knew Judge Ginsburg from their days in Washington, that he actually urged President Clinton to nominate her, to say, I need a sparring partner, and Ruth Ginsburg is the sparring partner I want. Those are the type of stories that are so interesting when you look at what goes on in the High Court between these people on 2 very different sides. David Levine, thank you so much for sharing your insight into the passing of Justice Ginsburg, passing away at the age of 87 years old. And condolences are pouring in, paying tribute to Justice Ginsburg. Governor Gavin Newsom tweeted, "We have lost a giant among us, a trailblazer and a champion of equality and justice. Our hearts ache tonight. Let us honor her memory by preserving the very ideals she fought to tirelessly put a rest in power." That is from Governor Gavin Newsom. And California Congresswoman Jackie Speier tweeted this: "We have lost an American icon of untold proportions, a feminist with the steeliest spine and the jurist of remarkable talent, legal precision, and a yearning for justice for all." Now, we're following this breaking story, so stay with us for the very latest, and we'll also have updates on KTVU.com.